this is not a gay thing, okay? Wade. So just keep it under control. But the man does have the best ass in DC.
Back in the day, it was like, you're not doing comments to attract the male gaze, but this clearly is. I mean, I don't know if it's a case of they want to do body positivity, or it's just like we swung back around or the pendulum to where this is okay or to be celebrated, but I appreciate it a lot.
I hated this book. This book sucks.
Wow.
How the hell are you gonna go with Death of Silver Surfer and the whole book being dead? This is Superman's fault. Damn it. He made Diane cool. I know everybody want to do it. Disgusting.
Heads up. This podcast features strong language, adult themes, and the occasional colorful metaphor. Listener discretion is advised. As for the views, they're all ours. The smart ones, the spicy ones, and the occasional madness. Skylarkin Media Inc. and its affiliates reserve the right to deny all involvement.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 6 of the For Outsiders Comic Book Podcast. We've been on a 2-week hiatus, but we're back now. We are 4 scholarly gentlemen who discuss comics, and we are here to entertain, amaze, and dazzle you with our brilliant observations and our witty repartee. For your listening pleasure, I am one of your 4 hosts. My name is Wade Sweet and Sour Aline, and I'm here with...
Already seem to be deep in.
All right. I am Michael, coming to you live from Catalan. Don't ask, I lost the bet.
You're sounding more and more homeless every episode, Michael.
Now, the man can't take a spot. The man is knocking on body players.
Okay, and taking Wade's lead, my name is Glenn, Spicy Chicken.
Really?
Michael, I don't know what you, but I'm feeling left out. One body got spicy chicken, next body got rum sour. We can't let this happen.
Yeah, you still go homeless. Yeah, that's a shame. Anyway, all right, we are gonna start the show with our weekly reads or picks of the week. Me, this birthday was a good week. A lot better than the last couple where we missed a lot of stuff to read. I still haven't finished reading anything, but I picked out a particular book that I thought was really good, and I don't see anything else beating it. But we'll get to that in due course. So we're gonna start with you, Gibson. What did you read?
Well, my read,
Like I didn't know.
hey, don't preempt my shine.
I'm not stepping on the shoes. Go ahead.
Right, so my read for this week, my pick for this week is Supergirl number 2.
Hey,
Supergirl number 2.
Pick a girl.
let's just call it what it is. It's super thick, not Supergirl.
Okay, so those comments aside. All right, so this book continues quite well from the first issue in terms of the substance, in terms of the feel, in terms of the experience. It definitely continues to lean into what Wade talked about with the first issue of this Silver Age feel with modern narrative development or sensibilities. It really is a very fun book, and it's fun in a way that is internally coherent and consistent, but it definitely leans into that Silver Age absurdity that is really, really great. So to recap real quick, Supergirl, Kara Danvers, Kara Zor-El, she returns to Midville. Midville, for her, if you're not familiar with Supergirl, the character, Midville for her is her version of Smallville, Kansas. It is one of those, I guess, mid-America type towns. Definitely more suburban than, say, like the rural Smallville farm. Her plan was to link up with her parents because she's been staying in Metropolis for a while, but she goes back to find that there's this whole Supergirl mania throughout the town, and she's wondering, the source of that, because she hasn't been there for a while. Turns out she's been replaced, and by a by a doppelganger who leads everybody to believe that she is the fake. And this doppelganger is, to quote one person from the group chat, thicker than frozen peanut butter. You can make of that what you wish. So this issue continues with that. It starts off with a perspective of what is apparently going to be Supergirl's #1 phono, a character called Lesla Lar, who is from Kandor, the bottle city of Kandor. And as smart as she is, she feels, like a nobody. Her parents are smarter. She can't seem to get her parents' attention. She can't seem to make progress with the Science Council and that stuff. So she decides that she is going to. Meanwhile, she seems to be a Supergirl fangirl, and because she's operating from, a bottle city, she knows who's Kara's. She's able to follow Kara like a virtual stalker. So she knows everything about Kara. She knows her secret identity. She knows where her parents live, all that kind of stuff. So in this issue, you get her perspective where she sets out. She leaves the bottle of candor in a way that seems ridiculously easy. Then she just opens a portal to Midvale, which is on the East Coast. Yeah, so not Mid America, so East Coast. And she just goes there. And my one peeve with this issue is how quickly Kryptonians gain a master powers. Because this chick shows up. She goes from, to use a term, boom bird to super thick, thicker than frozen peanut butter. Very shapely, very muscular, and she and her pet rabbit. She has a rabbit, of course. She has superpowers. She has super physique. Yeah, and she sets out to use her Kandorian science. So her super substance cosmetics, for example, her programmable matter, to assume the life of not just Supergirl but Linda Danvers. So who the hell is Kara Danvers? Was that from the Supergirl show? I'm a little confused. Anyway, so she takes over Supergirl's life, both her superhero persona and her personal life, dumps all of Supergirl's costumes. And that's a kind of cool Easter egg because Supergirl as a character has had a lot of costumes. And she starts out on the positive side, just like helping people catch from trees, helping old ladies carry her groceries. But then she decides she wants to ramp it up to cinematic effect. So she starts, faking threats, faking incidences. Somewhere in there, Titano, the Super 8, gets released. And there's a lot of really Silver Age flavored shenanigans going on. And Supergirl has to, do superhero stuff, save people. Well, this giant superpowered 8 is running around wreaking havoc. It kind of reminds me of The Incredibles, the first movie, where Syndrome is faking being a superhero to win attention. It is a lot like that with this new character. Anyway, this new character, the things get revealed. It is revealed that she was actually assuming Supergirl's identity. Supergirl is trying to be very trying to work things out. Anyway, it doesn't work out, and it ends up with this new character deciding that she is going to, instead, if she can't be a hero, she's going to be, well, as it says, someone else. Meanwhile, Kara's original uniform, her new uniform that was created for this series, is still messed up from her this new character's shenanigans. So she's defaulted back to one of the most questionable Supergirl outfits I am familiar with. But yeah, this book is fun. It's a lot of fun. It is brightly colored, very good art, and great characterization, story, everything. I love it. It's great. It's fun. It's light, but it still has substance, story. Doesn't feel decompressed. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, this was my pick last week. Well, sorry, 2 weeks ago. I did read #2. Well, for me, a bit of novelty has worn off. I was really amazed and pleasantly surprised when I read the first one. I was like, "Whoa, this is great." I still enjoy this one a lot. Just a little note there. Silver Age name when she first debuted was Linda Lee Danvers. At some point, she became Kara, and it's only since Rebirth I think she was Kara Danvers. It's weird, but yeah, that's what.
Was she ever Kara Kent?
Mine not really ever.
Yeah,
It was
I
Kara
remember.
for a little while. After Rebirth is when it switched up to permanently Kara Danvers. But Kara Kent was in use for a little bit of time as well.
Only since Rebirth. You are such a GPT.
Yes. Yeah. I like this book a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's silly, but still, it's telling a coherent, serious comic book story. I'm a little curious though as to where we are in terms of society, in terms of the portrayal of the whatever, I can't remember, the fake Supergirls.
Like,
Where have we,
yeah.
I wonder if we
Leslie.
swung back around to the point where having women look this way is no longer offensive because back in the day it was like you're not doing comments to attract the male gaze, but this clearly is. I mean, I don't know if it's a case of they want to do body positivity or it's just like we swung back around on the pendulum to where this is okay or to be celebrated, but I appreciate it a lot. Yeah. What's her name on this book is fantastic. The art, was it a writer artist combo? I'm trying to remember what I did last.
I think let me check real quick. I think it's the same
Yeah,
person
it is.
doing
Yeah. So Campbell is the writer slash artist on this. She's done done a fantastic job. She's not doing any colors, but to put out a book of this quality every week, well, so every month is amazing. I love when you have a solid writer artist who can put their exact vision down on the page as opposed to relying on somebody who has to, pencil it out for you.
Yeah.
And I really hope this book lasts. I don't know I don't know if it's ongoing or if it's a 6 or 5 issue, but I would like to hope that a lot of people are reading it and it's gonna sustain a long life and keep at this high quality. It's thumbs up for me for sure.
I haven't read the book, but I was just amused listening to you guys talking about this book, especially Mark. Mark in particular. You all sounded very adult, like very respectable, sensible people, very objective with your approach to analyzing the book and so on. Very, very stiff, very proper, very boring. The fact of the matter is this, right? The book looks cool. And this is from somebody who hasn't read it, just looking at very particular pages. It has a very good aesthetic and all of that jazz, right? But here's the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is this, right? I don't think anybody cares whether Supergirl is in this book anymore, right? This thick Supergirl has completely taken over, and nobody knows what is going on in this book anymore. And I believe that book is going to continue. That girl, she going to need her own solo title. Okay. And just lean into it. And I mean, you said something there, right, Wade? You're wondering if the pendulum has shifted. It has, and this is a product of the continued shift. I think we're returning back to some recognizable state of normality where people can just be people, no matter what part of the spectrum we fall on, no matter what it is that we like or don't like, that things can be produced for their audience and it's appreciated by their audience, and those who don't like it, well, find something else.
For sure. Agree.
The thing that is also cool about this book, it feels like a restart of Kara's story, but in a way that is unique to her but still parallels Superman. Because this character, her physical super appearance or not, Leslie Lar, she is smart. She might not. She's clearly dealing with like some imposter syndrome, like attention issues from her science council parents. But she's smart. She makes her own super gadgets to cause chaos. So it feels to me like it's a kind of like Lex and Superman dynamic. At least that's what it's setting up to be.
So you're saying that
More personal.
you're saying that in addition to her physique, she's actually a woman of substance with scientific technological skills and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because she apparently made like some sort of goo or whatever that was able to change Supergirl's crest on a molecular level. And yeah, she's from the Boston city of Candor. Candor is more advanced than Earth, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but still.
So it's fair to say that she's a well-rounded character.
Yeah, yes.
Just don't
She's well-rounded.
don't let him get away with that.
You on that?
The one weird thing with the art, though, maybe it's just me, it looks like the two main characters, Leslie Lar and Supergirl, both have buck teeth for some reason. I don't know if that's anybody else, but that's what it looks like.
Artistic choice. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, what we consider cute or something. So I guess that's what the artist is leaning into. But yeah, I noticed it as well. Speaking of
Okay,
the art,
I'll
it's
get to
something I want to mention. I think I mentioned to you guys already. It's just a little nitpick that bugs me. If you're reading Action Comics or if you're reading Clean Superman book, Lena Luthor is also in that book. That's his daughter, and she's a pretty clean cut blonde girl. who dresses with normal fashion. Yeah, but in this, she's fully goth, black hair with a sides shaved and a whole goth aesthetic. It's just a little weird to me that DC normally has a fairly coherent grasp of some kind of continuity of looks across their books. So it's just weird to me. It's like, let's give the artist a free rein, and she did what she wanted to do. It makes you wonder if this book is all the continuity or set in another universe or something. But that's just me thinking out loud and probably too long. It's just something I want to mention.
I told
Wait,
you already. After the
Lex
events,
I don't want to
daughter.
hear about.
No, you're not talking about Lex Luthor's daughter that he sold to Brainiac.
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
that one.
Okay.
I told you already. After the events in the Superman book, Lena clearly went straight to her hairdresser and said, "Hey, give me I'm mad at Daddy #5," and that's the result of her look.
So when I see her next month back in Superman with this old hairstyle, what am I supposed to assume?
These characters have lives outside of the issues that they appear in, you know. You think they just live their lives from one page to the next? What happened when the book done? They have things to do.
Yeah, but what happened to her to make her go this far in another direction? And then what did she switch back?
Her father sold her, bro. She was
Yeah,
an
well, that's not-
experimental alien weirdo for years.
All right, let's see what you thought about the book, Mike.
The Supergirl? I haven't read the first one. I haven't read the second one yet.
It's either he read it or he watched it.
I was surprised he didn't look at it. I thought he was all about fitness.
She don't,
You gotta read it. There's a
she don't
giant-
have enough muscles on her.
Things,
She
okay?
don't have enough muscles on her for Mike.
I knew thick chocolate.
Good, Mike.
Yeah,
Get it off your chest.
Some friends I have. Right? So anyway, my pick of the week is the New Avengers. I'm not sure about the writer. All I saw in the name category is Humphreys, and I don't know who that is. Yes. So the whole premise basically is that, you know, the world is under doomstorm, and, you know, everybody is basically trying to find their own way of living with that reality, including Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, and his way of basically, you know, going about life in this new found world is to basically punish people who, in a sense, side with doom. So we see Bucky sitting on this gallery or this little banister at a little rundown gas station talking to an old man. And they, you know, they're just shooting the breeze, having fun with it until Bucky brings up, you know, I know that you sold out your neighbors to doom, right? Yeah, anybody who disagrees with doom, and I know that you've been basically ratting them out under the table. Yeah, not a cool thing, bro. So Bucky punishes the guy by blowing up his gas station. And when he's leaving now, he runs into Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow. And the two of them, you know, rekindle things, because it's like basically the two of them are like Peter and Silk back before, you know, Marvel decided to retcon that whole thing where if they're ever in the same room with each other, you know, clothes coming off. Yeah. So it didn't even take 5 minutes into this book before, you know, Natasha and you know, Bucky are basically going at it. And they're trying to figure out, okay, so Natasha's trying to, you know, rope Bucky into telling him, look, crazy things are happening in the world. Nobody's there to really pay attention to it. So I'm thinking we could do something about it. You know, we could put together a little team, and Bucky's like, nope, no teams. I ain't going back on teams, okay? Because here's the thing. Teams, you have to come to this weird standard. Everybody start judging you. All of a sudden, they start looking at your past and blah, blah, blah. So he's like, yeah, he's not doing that. And she's like, no. We're going to do it differently this time. We're going to, you know, form our own kind of team with like-minded people, and we're going to, you know, take out these problems. And when I mean take out these problems, we gonna take them out. So basically, the two of them are now forming a cheat that is like the love child between X-Force and the Avengers. And the first person Bucky decides to recruit is X-23. And she's like, yeah, I'm not doing that, okay? I'm not going on a team where people could be judging me for my past and all kind of stuff. And he's like, no. And she's like, I have this kind of vibe. I don't want to be on a team with, like, you know, all them higher than thou hero types that feel their hands so clean, because them are the people who believe that, oh, we must save all life, including the bad guys. No. So he's like, oh, no. We're not saving the bad guys. We're killing the bad guys. Okay. And that's why I'm coming to you. And X-23 was like, say less. So she jumped on that team. And then the next person he went and recruit was Namor. And he kind of used the whole, hey, Namor, putting together this team, could you do me a solid, one howling commando, buddy to another. And Namor is like, seriously, bro, you're going to use that line every single time you need something from me? And you just see Bucky like, yes. So Namor like, fine. But here's the thing. I am royalty, okay? So I don't go on any team that not name Avengers. And hence is how we get the name the New Avengers. Because Namor insists that he must be on an Avengers team. So the first real mission they go to do, they're going to check out some little thing where people are disappearing in this town. Turns out they run into the Jackal. Have not seen the Jackal in a long time. He's a Spider-Man villain, and he's on the low end of Spider-Man's rogues gallery. Like the low end. He does a lot of experimentation and all that kind of stuff. He's like the D-grade version of Mr. Sinister. So he's now, they buck up and he raid the compound, free the people and them that he was experimenting on. And, they felt bad because they got there a little too late. A lot of people got some really weird augmentations done to them, only to find out that that Jackal has been experimenting with cloning and recreating odd monstrosities of the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are basically a group of very powerful, both financial and actual power-wise people who have gotten together in secret to decide how the world was going to be run. And these people consist of Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Charles Xavier. Namor was once a part of them, but he dipped the second they decided to shoot Hulk into space because he was like, I am not going to do that so that his green ass could come back and, stomp all over me. No. And he just told them deuces and bounced. And Black Bolt, yes, Black Bolt was also a part of the team. And Jackal made weird, odd monstrosity clones of all of them. So they're fighting these people, and they're holding their own pretty good. And Natasha's like, okay, we're doing pretty decent. And they're like, okay, don't kill Jackal. The next panel, Jackal dies. And when they look to the left, there is what looks like a roided out version of Black Bolt. And, well, let's just say the next word out of his mouth kind of ended that chapter right there. And I am eager to see the next one because they still need to call in a couple more people for that team. And this is a team of oddballs and like anti-heroes and people who have no compunction about, spilling blood. And I want to see what that kind of team will do because they're my kind of team.
Yeah, I read this one. The writer on this was Sam Humphries. Sam Humphries, yeah. I am a little offended that you call the Jackal a zealous Spider-Man villain. This is the man that was responsible for Peter Parker's major troubles almost through the entire 90s with the Clone Saga. So he's somebody to worry about. But
Clone Saga was ass. No.
Yeah, but he was a problem.
Yeah. Back then.
Fair enough. Yeah, but I actually did not hate this book. I liked it. It was cool. Once you got Namor in the book, you got me. I love the guy. Just an asshole. He's just one of my favorite characters. Bucky and Natasha were a little nauseating, but fine, whatever. They got history and all that. 23. I don't know. I don't know. I just got this thing about people trying to supplant the originals with new people. Like, she's the best there is. And Bucky was saying, like, oh, yeah, she's basically better than Logan and all that. Like, what the fuck ever. But she's all right. I don't know how the Hulk and Carnage are going to come into play in this book and work on a team with these guys. I don't care or know anything about symbiotes recently. Michael, is Carnage a hero now or something? Or this is all brand new?
The host for Carnage is now Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock, yeah.
Oh.
Eddie bringing in the Carnage.
Oh, Eddie's
After
Carnage.
the end of that whole King in Black saga, the Carnage symbiote was without a host, and Eddie had lost Venom, and Carnage needed a host to keep living. Eddie needed a symbiote to keep living, so they made their devil deal, and in the Carnage book, Eddie's trying to keep Carnage kind of like focused, so they're only going after killers.
So where is Cletus Cassidy?
He's dead.
Dead.
Didn't he have a whole, like, 2 mini events back to back centered around Carnage?
I would never know.
There was one, it started literally near the tail end of the King in Black stuff.
Yeah, where Carnage was trying to find a new host.
New host, dude, the man literally resurrected himself. Remember, he had died and then he was in space, then he fell back. And he fell back during the King in Black thing and reconstituted himself. And then after the King in Black, there was the whole absolute carnage thing that started, where he was just going around like consuming.
No, that absolute carnage thing was before King in Black. That's what led to King in Black, because
Okay.
he was consuming the codexes out of previous symbiote.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
Yeah. So basically, right now, Carnage and Eddie Brock are trying to use each other. Eddie Brock still wants to do good, so the deal he made with Carnage is to hunt killers. Carnage, on the other hand, has a two-part plan. I think he's trying to gain control of Eddie's brain or personality or whatever, because Eddie is in control of the symbiote mostly, but Carnage is operating in the mind space. What Carnage literally came and said, "Hey, go and hunt down like the worst killers. But if somebody kills you, I get a new host, or we both die." That's the deal. Anyway, that's all I'm saying.
That sounds like if they cooked that idea just a little bit more, they have something there.
They got time to develop it.
Yeah.
Let's keep it trucking, guys. Who's next?
Yeah, so I guess that's that for that. Glenn, you want to run up next?
Yeah, sure. So my pick of the week was The Death of Silver Surfer. I was going to pass up that book because I was like, how much more deaths can this man die? But I'm like, you know what? Silver Surfer is my favorite superhero, and it's been a while since I read anything. So if the man gone dead, I might as well attend his funeral. So I picked up the book. Yeah, it's not what it turns out to be. It's different. So
He's
Silver
not dead then?
Surfer in this book, no, Silver Surfer. Well, if he's going to die, I don't know how. I read the whole book. There was nothing pertaining to his death. Well, I mean, there were people who were trying to kill him, but who's not trying to kill Silver Surfer? Anyway, so the book starts off in a beautiful meadow. All right, a beautiful meadow, and there's this guy next to a beetle, tiny little beetle, and both he and the beetle are dying. He's bleeding out of his eyes, his nose, his mouth. He looks like he ate a couple bullets and he is passing away there, and he's dying. And there's some monologuing going on. And then you turn the page, still in the same meadow, and you see floating above him is Silver Surfer, looking like Jesus Christ come down from heaven. He's doing his Jesus thing that he does every once in a while, you know? And the story starts splitting into 3 panels. Excuse me. And in those 3 primary panels, there's 3 different scenes. One panel is showing the destruction of a planet by a black hole. The other panel would focus on the guy who's dying, and the third panel focuses on the beetle. And Silver Surfer is speaking, but he's monologuing about something to do with life and death and blah blah blah. All Silver Surfer does get all philosophical and wax poetic about the cycles of life and death in the cosmos and all that blah blah blah. He's doing a Silver Surfer thing, but it's structured in such a way which I found to be rather beautiful, where he is speaking and he's obviously speaking to the 3 subjects of the panel in one go, and you're seeing it plays out as you go through the book. You can see it play out, and then he fixes it. He says a word, he says a phrase that I found to be rather uplifting. It's kind of like when Superman say, "I got you." It's kind of like that. He says something to that kind of vein. I think he says like, "I am here," or something or the other like that. And in the 3 panels, he saves the subject of each of those panels. He closes the black hole. He literally just powers it shut, in real spectacular Silver Surfer fashion. Like the thing that gets your juices going as far as cosmic power is concerned, the real big cosmic things, He closes the black hole, saves the people. He reaches out and he revitalizes the man because, it's within Silver Surfer power to stop you from dying. I mean, it's the power cosmic. What can it not do, right? And he resurrects the beetle. And it just looks so cool. The way it's structured, the way it's laid out and presented to you, you can feel the majesty. And I find I keep coming back to that word, majestic. Because the books that I'm reading, they seem to, whether by accident or by design, touch on that theme, where they make really great characters who are the main focus or the subject of their stories. They make them feel epic. They make them feel majestic because that's who they are, and this is how they deserve to be presented. Not whimpering in a corner and crying over existential issues and working through depression and stuff like that. That's what we do in real life. In comics, we're there to do the things that we cannot do in real life, such as resurrect a man from death and close a black hole, right? So we see that. And then right after, having this very Jesus Lazarus moment, he takes off and does another thing that Silver Surfer is accustomed of doing, which is stopping conflicts. Okay. Two factions are warring against each other, and Silver Surfer swoops in, completely dismantle all their weaponry, and just stops all the fighting, secures a ceasefire. Right after that, the book shifts, and it shifts over to a home where there's an old lady and a young lady, and they're clearly family, and they're chatting about life. The younger woman is getting ready. She's putting on body armor and stuff like that. And her grandmother is helping her prepare to leave for work. This woman, new character, created by the writer of this story, which is Greg Pak. Some of you may know him for providing us Worldbreaker Hulk and the like. I know Michael is stewing in his juices right now over hearing these words, but yeah, Greg Pak is right. Greg Pak is writing this story. If you know a thing or two about Greg Pak, he loves his Asian characters, and rightfully so, because he himself is Asian and representation must happen. But one thing I can appreciate with Greg Pak is that he does not lean into, the pandering things. He writes genuine characters because he knows the culture. It's his culture. He grew up in it. He knows the people. He knows the culture. And when he creates these characters, they embody the culture that he has experiences with. It's much like with Ram V, where very often you would see his Indian culture and heritage come out within the stories that he writes. He will represent it in some way, shape, or form. So Greg Pak does that, and you see it in this Asian family. So the girl is everything that you would want in a girl boss. Okay. She top of the line, graduated from every possible place that you could graduate from and earn every possible achievement. And then she went out, she was top in class for like Shield. She was the best Shield soldier, and then switched to some other organization, a new one called BAN, something to do with tracking alien activities. And she's the best soldier there ever. And then she goes out and she does solo things because she's just the best. And she shows it. She doesn't just talk it, she shows it. You can see why she is the best. She's very cool. And she goes out, she does her thing, and it's believable. She goes in, she whoops the butt of this alien. She comes back, and then this guy, a very non-flattering guy, he's kind of like the Henry Peter Gyrich kind of type of character.
He hits me with Justin Hammer.
Yeah, he's just that guy, kind of assy poop kind of guy. So he's there and he's mouthing off at her, and he throws her qualifications in her face like it's nastiness, just real slimy downgrading kind of guy. And he puts the heroes up on there. Basically, essentially what it is that he's using the heroes and encounters with the heroes as some sort of marketing ploy, if I remember correctly. It's something to do with spinning stories with the heroes and how that affects the society and marketing and all that kind of jazz. And I wanted to slap him because he was very disrespectful about some of our heroes, but and he pointed out that Silver Surfer gives them a unique situation because nobody gives a crap about aliens. Nobody know where they're from, nobody know what they do, nobody's invested in them or anything, so they're like an easy mark for what it is that he wants to do. So he tells our elite young lady Kelly that she is to go and fight Silver Surfer and kill him. And she says, "Yes, boss." And she goes. At which point I paused. And I'm like, young lady, you're going up against one of the strongest beings beneath the level of an entity, one of the strongest beings in our known universe. with guns. With guns. You read the dossier. You know exactly what he is. And you're going up against him. Yes, boss. Okay, fine, no problem. I'll turn the page. So I turn the page. Silver Surfer is doing his thing. He's flying around the earth. He's flying low to the sea, and he's looking very cool and whatnot. In comes this young lady, and she threatens him. And Silver Surfer is like, just cool. You know who I am. Don't try and mess around or anything like that. It's all right. Just chill. She's like, no, you don't understand. They're coming to kill you, right? And then she sets up the Silver Surfer, and then she chids him. She's like, I always heard that you were a sucker and you fall for this type of crap. The Silver Surfer is an honest man, genuinely likes people and wants to save them. So he falls for her tricks, and she tries to exploit it, and she's shooting the crap out of Silver Surfer in his chest. And Silver Surfer is still trying to protect it. It's like, no, this is not. And the tables are turned, and she gets blown up, but she doesn't die or anything. Silver Surfer. She blacks out, wakes up. She's in her living room couch, and her grandmother is having a very pleasant conversation with Silver Surfer in the kitchen. And she gets up all frightened and stuff. And Surfer is like, listen, I got you. You're okay. I made sure of that. And you're home now and whatever. And Silver Surfer goes out on his way. So she returns to her boss. She tells her boss that she failed in her objective and whatnot, and yada, yada, yada. But he's not concerned because all of this was a setup to go after Hulk's child, Scar. And there's one final scene in the book, which I'm not going to spoil that. Yeah, I talk about most of the books. And there's still stuff in there that you'll have to read if you want to read. So I didn't spoil everything entirely. But it's setting up for a very big cosmic adventure. It looks big. It looks pretty big. And I find that to be pretty exciting. I wasn't really on board with Kelly to begin with because when we were first introduced to her, she was kind of giving me that absolute Superman Lois Lane vibes. And that was not a very good connection to make for me because you all know how I feel about that particular Lois Lane. But pretty soon I could see that, she's a cool character and she deserved to be given a chance. I don't know how things are going to play out between her and Silver Surfer, but we know that you can't have Silver Surfer riding a surfboard in space by himself. There must always be an attractive woman in his company because that's just how Silver Surfer rolls. So we'll see how this pans out. I'm very eager to see it. Look like we're going to have some major players on the board here, and looks like it's going to be a good time.
So what I'm hearing, Glenn, is that Silver Surfer is Marvel's equivalent to Doctor Who.
He's Marvel's equivalent to Doctor Who. He is one of Marvel's many iterations of Jesus. He is our great philosopher, our hero, and also our moral center as well.
Yeah, all of that. For me, I read the book and I was like, what? I saw Greg Pak. Okay, you have my attention, sir. And I delved into it. They didn't spend too much time, but that guy, the director for Eagle Star, it's more like he's trying to find which groups he can exploit for money. So he was basically telling her, listen here, you, Kelly, okay, you were the top of Shield, then you were the top of Sword, now you were the top of Band. I just bought out Band. So that's why she's working for him because he basically bought the whole thing. And so he's like, yeah, now because of that, you too smart for fall for any, nonsense line tell you. So I'm just going to give it to you straight. Okay. Now, we live in a world of wonders and marvel and people breaking the laws of physics like every day. Why not just exploit that? So that's going on in his head is profit. He's just looking to see how he can make a good buck because he wants to grow not by an inch or 2 inches. He wants exponential growth because Eagle Star must always be growing and expanding and making money. He basically hit me like a mix of Justin Hammer and Diego Aga, the leader of Roxanne. That's who he hits. Yeah,
Sorry there, Mike, again. What they did with this character in this book, they made him almost like a caricature of our real world rich people, and a lot of the talking points that are often presented about, perpetual growth, always chasing stuff. And not only that, so he's like a caricature of like all the famous rich guys like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Like, to me, he feel like this mixture of Justin Hammer, where he come in with the goofy, silly kind of suddenness, but he always he eye pan what can make the most money, but also Diego Aga, meaning he willing for dip his hand in anything and everything as long as it turn a profit. So that's how he may feel to me. So he just tell she, look, I had a think tank think of which group or which people we can most easily exploit, and we came down to three main subgroups. The superheroes, but he don't want to touch them because they're too involved with the government. He don't want mess around with that kind of something, because when you talk about government and so that are people who can basically take your money from you. He don't want to deal with that kind of something. And then there is the X-Men, but he was like, no, we can't touch them either. Kids love the X-Men. And I was like, wait, what? Like, current X-Men? The same group that the entire world hates and is like hunting down and shit?
He
What
said
is he talking?
mutants, not X-Men.
Yeah, mutants and so. But he was saying like, oh, kids love them. I'm like, nobody loves the mutants right now. And then he said with the last group was like the supernaturals, but he like, yeah, them the too weird. Too much weird shit going with them. He now go there. And then he was like, and then there's aliens. And nobody cares about aliens. Nobody know where they come from, like Glenn said. So he's like, yeah, they're the most exploitable group for profit. So I'm going to send you after this alien we know, the most powerful alien to like really, make contact with the earth and all that, Silver Surfer. And then she went, she tried, she failed. And the whole time, the most interesting part of that entire book to me is when Surfer, right before she approached Surfer, he was having this full-blown conversation with a seagull. And I'm just there like, what do you mean you understand, It's one of those kinds of things. Like, what kind of conversation was he and the seagull having? It seemed pretty interesting. And she just interrupted. So after she got her ass kicked and Surfer basically takes you home like she was a lost child, they were like, the man called she back and was like, okay, yeah, we bit off more than we can chew there with Surfer. You're not strong enough to deal with him. Instead, we're going to get bait to use against him. And, we're going to use the second most powerful alien to ever, touch our, touch down on Earth and send her after Scar. And I don't know if she realizes, but if you couldn't beat the first strongest, you probably shouldn't go after the second strongest that has an even worse attitude. Because I'm waiting to see what Scar does to this girl, because I'm like, yeah, go shoot him too and see how that works.
So this book was not what I expected it to be. I don't know if anybody read Silver Surfer Requiem, but that was a better death of the Silver Surfer for me. First of all, I do not like Silver Surfer on Earth. All. He's one of those characters that belongs in space, and that's where we want to see him. So I was disappointed to see this was set on Earth, at least for this point. So Greg Pak, yeah, he's a fantastic writer. Did a lot of Hulk. So I guess I wasn't too surprised when I saw the Scar, that other Hulk guy. The pages, I was disappointed. It was like, geez, I mean, you gotta shove a Hulk in everywhere. But anyway, fine, whatever. My favorite part of this book is Sumit Kumar's art. He, like Glenn said, he made Silver Surfer look regal and majestic. I love the shine on him. The way he posed, the way he stood, the way he looked at people, kind of aloof, but still, warm and caring, like a real benevolent king. Those were the strong points for me. The story I'm not too invested in. Another asshole industrialist or whatever, and some plot to exploit aliens, like y'all said, but I will stick around and see where it goes. I'm not enraptured by it as yet, but the art will hold me, and I always give the Silver Surfer a chance. So yeah, that's where I fall on that.
I hated this book. This book sucks.
Whoa.
How the hell are you gonna go with Death of Silver Surfer and the whole book being dead? What is up with that? Also, why again are we having characters just dying? Thor just dead. No, it's Silver Surfer. You know who I blame? I blame Superman. This is Superman's fault. Damn it. He made Diane cool. I know everybody want to do it. Disgusting. Ugh. Can you move on, please?
Tell us how you really feel. Okay. What do you think about the art? You look at the book.
I said disgusting. Can you move on, please?
Like
don't slap the death of whoever on the front of the book and then nobody dies.
But Superman didn't die in the first issue of Death of Superman, the story. I get to a certain point he's gonna die, maybe like the third or the fourth issue.
Can you hurry up? That'd be good.
Well, you can't say, right? You can say that Marvel often, like if a character is going to like die, they would die within the first book. And then everything else is just their soul going through a resurrection process. And then they're back to life at the end of the miniseries. So then it becomes a nothing burger. Like, why are we even here? I am annoyed that it feels almost like a bait and switch. Like, this is Death of Silver Surfer, but there's no dying going on here. It's something else entirely. But say what you will, though, that cover is great. I love the cover art. And I saw the sneak peek for the issue 2 with the Galactus head. Oh my gosh, that looks really good.
I have not had good Spider-Man in quite a while, but Marvel surprised me this week. My pick is Genocide Spider-Man #1. These oversized special books usually they aren't very good. Just like a few thrown together mismatched stories. It's probably left over that somebody had in a drawer somewhere. So when I took this up, my expectations were very, very low. So that made it even sweeter. There are 4 stories packed in this book. The first one is by Kevin Smith, chasing Amy, Mallrats, and Clerks fame. Mallrats is my favorite 90s comedy. The most brilliantly hilarious thing I had seen in my life to that point. And Giuseppe Camacoli, who is the art, is one of my favorite Spider-Man artists in recent years. He had done the majority of the work back in the Superior storyline with Dan Slott. I just love his work. So the first story tells the story of Spider-Man. Starts with he's in battle with the Sinister Six, but it turns out it's really just Mysterio using holograms. So Spider-Man hands him his ass handily, and then he realizes something during the fight that his costume got ripped, and now his ass is also hanging out literally. So I'm not really a fan of that kind of basic or potty humor, but Smith eases this in so smoothly, so deftly, that it's just like one of his movies. Peter, the cops, and Mysterio's reactions are all perfection. Everything just felt like this was natural comedy. It didn't feel like that Doctor Strange or Hulk book that y'all guys like, where everything was a setup for a joke. I was really annoyed with that book, but this one is hidden. As Doctor Strange lives in the area, he decides to go there. A pretty pointless little aside to get some help. I guess it was mainly just to give us this gratuitous Deadpool cameo that wasn't needed, but whatever. Strange sends him to the Fantastic Four, and we found out the Fantastic Four is under attack by Psycho Man. Spidey saves the FF, and we get this hilarious bit where Ben and Johnny are manhandling Psycho Man. I would laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. It was so funny. You all look at it, the panels, the way they were doing it, how they were in the background, messing him up. It was just funny. Reed gives him this new costume made of unstable molecules, which is something I always wondered about. You're BFFs with the Fantastic Four. Why have you never had a costume made of unstable molecules? Why are you swinging around and playing clock? But so it was weird to me, but finally somebody addressed it. So back on the streets now, he runs into Carnage, and in the fight, Carnage slashes at him, and Peter's ecstatic to see that the new suit holds up, and he proceeds to beat Carnage's ass. I was wondering, now that you guys mentioned that Carnage is Eddie Brock, which Carnage this probably was. It didn't come across as Eddie. I don't know if Eddie still has a mad on or issue with Peter, so I figured it might have been Cletus. And it's just like a, all the continuity story. It was pretty lighthearted, but this is what I consider top tier Spider-Man. We may never get the dry, sardonic Spider-Man that Lee and Dick Romita Jr. Sr. gave us back in the day. But this is a Spidey I can enjoy in 2025. Smith's wit is razor sharp. The Spidey comes off as very competent and experienced while still retaining the modern goofy sense of humor that he normally has. Kamikoli's Spidey looks a little different than he used to look in the suit. His head is more angular and stuff. I don't know. Something is different. But his general style is still the same. It's clean, not so heavy lines. Almost reminds me kind of like a more evolved. I don't know if you guys ever read Roald Dahl's books, The Witches and that kind of books, but Quentin Blake did artwork on those. It kind of looks like that, but just heavier and cleaner and more evolved and more modern and more detailed. It's beautiful work, and I love it. Marvel needs to also give Kevin Smith a 12-issue run that they did for Mark Millar on Marvel Knights Spider-Man years ago. That would be a banger. I want to see it. That story was good for me. Let me move on quick. The second story was by Al Ewing and Mark Buckingham. First, I want to say Buckingham is doing this wonderful kind of homage to Romita Sr. Spider-Man. I don't know if it's his regular style. I don't think so, but it's deliciously retro and is like pure classic Spidey. If you read the early Spider-Man books by John Romita Sr., it looks just like that. So Ewing here leans into his weird style, and gives us a glimpse of what he would probably do with a Spidey book. I am not sure what that is, what I would want long term, but I love it in this little bite-sized chunk. The story opens up with this cosmic entity, Eternity, saying that he needs Peter's help or all will be lost, that kind of stuff. So he says Peter needs to follow the numbers 616 in this little intro. We know that 616 is Marvel. It's the Marvel Universe's numerical designation in the multiverse. So Peter wakes up at exactly 6:16 a.m. in the morning with a massive spider sense headache that he draws him to this address of this building. The building is number 616 at the corner of 6th Avenue and 16th Street. At 616 again. And there he runs into that Ewing guy from Hickman's God's book. He explains to Spidey that they have to stop this huge cosmic threat that will unravel all the universes. He explains that at this point in time, the 616 Earth, our universe, is in the middle, like the string of the multiverse. So it's like the focal point of the multiverse at this point. And the threat can enter at this point and use that convergence to destroy the entire multiverse. So he also tells Spidey that the 616 universe really started when the original Human Torch first ignited. Explain that time isn't linear and that this event would have caused like ripples going back and forward in time, causing the otherwise ordinary Marvel universe to become quote unquote marvelous. So this creature appears ripping holes in time and stuff when they're battling, and the windows into time, you get glimpses of pivotal moments in Marvel's history. You see the first appearance of the original Human Torch that we talked about. We see the birth of the FF. We see Professor X first recruiting Storm into the X-Men. And for some inexplicable reason, we see Kamala Khan when she debuts. I don't know why they keep trying to make her a cornerstone in the Marvel Universe, or America is so important, but whatever. And we also see Rocket Raccoon, which I assume was his first appearance. I'm not entirely sure. But Spidey recruits all of them to assist. And what about this part was really cool for me and tickled me to no end is that somebody made a decision to write the font of all these characters' dialogues in word balloons in the same font and style that were written in the original books. So if you go back and look at the Fantastic Four #1, the X-Men Giant Size, or even the Marvel Comics #1 from 1939, you will see that the writing looks exactly like how they look. It's a small detail. And as a super nerd, I would have seen it right away. It's probably an effort largely wasted on the general population because nobody's going to see it or care or even recognize it, but I appreciated it. Also, to what they also did is that every line, Storm, the Human Torch, Ben Grimm, that they pulled from the past, every line they said in this book were lines pulled directly from their original appearances. So they seem kind of out of place at times, but if you recognize them, you understand and you laugh. There's a weird line where the Torch says something like, he, that tickles. I was like, but if you look at the original book, there's a scene where somebody turns a fire hose on him. And that's what he says, he, that tickles. So they just put all the new dialogue in there, all the old dialogue into the new book as like little homages, and it was real cool. I really loved it. So at the end, they save the world, save the day, everybody returns to their own time. And the story ends with eternity wishing us, the readers, and everybody else, happy 616 day. So I love this book for the deep cut it took in the Marvel history and the respect it paid, and the clever way Ewing did it and tied it all together. It may not connect with casual fans because unless you have a love for the lore and an understanding and a sense of the history, you're not going to get the deeper levels of this story. But for me, it was beautiful and it was fantastic. So the third story is, I'm not going to spend too long on this, is more in line with what's really going on in the current, I assume, Spider-Man universe. There's this new character that Spidey runs into who has a weird form of super speed. It's not really super speed. He freezes time within a certain radius of where he is. He creates like a time bubble. So everything around him is frozen and he moves at normal speed. So for everybody in the bubble, it seems like he's moving at super speed. To me, it's a kind of, I don't want to say useless power, but it works only, like you said, it works within like 12 feet of you. So I don't know how useful it's going to be long term. These stories, him getting his powers and his father who developed the serum or whatever it was. His father's ill with cancer, so he's keeping a bubble over his father to keep him alive, and he has to fight Electro, who's trying to steal the formula, and these Hydra guys. These bad guys. It was just pretty basic. Man shows up. He and Spider-Man save the day, and we're gonna see what happens with him in the future. It was by Chip Zdarsky, and he's a solid writer. I love Chip Zdarsky, but this was just compared to the other two books, the other two stories, which were different. This was just felt pretty ordinary. I was like, all right. Finally, the fourth story, glanced at it and shut the book because it was some Spider-Verse crap about Kid Venom. I had zero interest in that. And I just closed it, and that was the end of that for me. All in all, this was a great Spider-Man special issue for me. Best Spider-Man I've had in years. I was really happy with it. I read it twice, and I don't know where they can go from here. I would love to see Smith and Ewing on Spider-Man for a little bit. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
This,
Gibson, you're
this
the
is
other
how
fan. You read it?
this is how Marvel just keep you hooked. They give you bare bad treatment and then a little sweetness, and you get
That's what.
all bad treatment.
Yeah, it's it's an abusive relationship. I'm okay with it.
Toxic in
Yeah,
this
talk
one.
to it. Very much so.
You should have it. Oh,
No, when they get stuff like this, yeah, that was good.
You
I
said
mean,
something
right?
there where the something to do with um oh gosh, something to do with the like different moments within the Marvel universe and so on.
Yeah, pivotal moments. They showed windows to like pivotal times and like big things that happen, like the abuse of important characters and stuff like that.
Yeah. So something similar is going on in this book here with Bishop and Cable.
Oh, the time book. Yeah, like you talked
Yeah.
about the other day.
And in India, there's a new foe that is created by the Children of the Vault. So during the Krakoa stuff, the Children of the Vault had a brief little arc in there where they did some things and the X-Men had to find a way to deal with them, and they were handled, well, pretty handily by the concerted effort of Cable and Bishop. And it was very cool. That was a very cool stuff. Even the way they pulled it off. Clearly, they're overpowered by the Children of the Vault, but it wasn't a head-on direct fight. It was just the manipulation of situation and resources to get the best outcome. And they really pulled the number on the Children of the Vault, right? So they got their butts whooped and they left. So according to the story, after they got dealt pretty handily by the mutants, they went and created a brand new child, specifically designed to deal with mutants. And how it deals with mutants is by time traveling to key moments in mutant history and eating those moments, eating them out of history. So when
Oh.
you said what you did, I was like, man, sounds kind of like what I just read. I was about to hijack it for even more because
What?
there is the Storm book, which I feel I need to say something about it. Okay.
Make it quick.
Storm, okay, so Storm is doing the most, right? And Storm is being very cosmic and also being very terrestrial. And the discrepancies between the two can be very annoying because the terrestrial part of it is very pedestrian and I really could care less about it. How you gonna make me care about legal matters where the United States is trying to take Storm to court over some bullshit? And on the other hand, you have freaking Eternity weaponizing Abraxas to fight against his brother Oblivion. How are those things going to balance off? And in the middle of all that, you have the living tribunal there, and then you have the one above all making a very fantastic and long hair flowing, again, majestic entrance into all of this. And while this is going on, Storm is in the middle of a fight between 4 or 5 different thunder gods. This shit is nuts. Anyway, that's my little rant.
Yes. Spider-Man. So
And they say something.
go ahead. It better be about
So
Spider-Man.
I think Spider-Man did have an unstable molecule suit, the white and black suit, when he was part of the Future Foundation.
Yeah, he did. But why did he never have a regular one all the time?
Because the Fantastic Four are a bunch of selfish bastards.
No. It's because it would make Peter's life too easy, and Peter is not supposed to have an easy life.
He's supposed to suffer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sew your clothes, damn it. Sew your own clothes.
Yeah, this man perpetually have $5 in his pocket. Where he's supposed to buy unstable molecules?
He doesn't have to buy them. They're his best friends. They'll give it to him.
No.
This is
When Bounty Killer made that song with the lyrics, born as a sufferer, grew up as a sufferer, it's Peter he was talking about.
Yeah, Gibson, you were saying.
now let me keep it going. I don't want to slide into another marker is treated like shit, right? Let me move on.
Okay, what do you think about the book?
It was a fun book, but it was kind of chaotic. Like you, I wasn't really quite sure where the continuity. But this is Marvel. Marvel doesn't care about continuity. Anyway, I'm not getting at that rant either. It was fun. It was fun.
So nobody
as-
appreciated the deep cuts that like the Easter eggs and stuff like I did, right? I am so disappointed.
No, we appreciate it. You know, I appreciate it because I could clearly hear the love and the joy, as this book was a soothing balm for your tortured soul. That
It was indeed
yeah, I mean, you where they see you every issue of Spider-Man, just
suffering.
suffering, right? So the fact that you were excited about this book, I was like, man, the man deserves a win. At some
Yeah.
point, he deserves a win. So yeah, I can appreciate your joy over the book, man.
Thank you.
I would also like to that, from Ewing, Al Ewing, you're welcome, Wade. All those little touches of a continuity of, when you're saying, yes, this writer is paying attention. He's taking me back. That existed. That's Ewing giving you what you really wanted. So, you're welcome for that. But in terms of spiders, my
This
attention.
man, like, flexing about Al Ewing, not this man that don't know authors. The two people that gave him his favorite Hulks.
My attention was, with the other spider who is currently wrapped up in some weird beef between Anansi and Ares.
What are we talking about?
Miles Morales. Yeah, he's kind of in some God Wars. Ares and Anansi is in some kind of competition, and they're selecting a team. And Miles had to. Well, the Miles team didn't have enough players, and Ares said, "Fine, you have till the time when my axe reach back to my hand from orbit to select two team members." And he axe into space, and the axe come back down, and Miles been there freak out, so he just picked. Well, he kind of picked 3 people. One of the people he picked is a genetic clone of him. So Anansi used that as a loophole and said, "Hey, technically that's just a clone of him, so it counts as one person." And Ares is just looking at Anansi like, this bitch. You know how Anansi love his sneaky little something on them. You can never trust him. But yeah. And one of the people he went and selected, one of the people, Miles went and selected, just so happened to be his therapist. Why in the world he dragged his therapist into this? I don't know, but she was the only person he could really think of in times of crisis. So he just...
Miles need to know that the pendulum is swinging the other way now. Okay, somebody just needs to let him know. And honest to God, ever since Bendis left Miles has never been good.
All I know is that I'm watching this shit, and Ares, like, first off, and he picked the god of agriculture from his side and he picked Miles' therapist. Her name is like Kesha Khan. Yeah. So the two of them start fight, and this man is just straight putting belt to ass on this woman. And I'm like, it's 2025, bro. You can't hit a girl like that. Okay, you'll get canceled. And he don't care. This man is just beating her with this plow. And then you start to notice that no matter how much this man is hitting this woman, she ain't really taking any damage, which apparently Ares start to notice. And Ares is like, yo, wrap this up, partners. I have a weird feeling about this. So he decided to, the god of architecture, I don't know his name because, it's one of those names with syllables and letters that don't make no sense. Damn Greek. But yeah, he delivered what he believed was the coup de grace, only forget, this basically big man plump to his chin that just rearranged his mandible. And this man looked down, and there is this woman holding his plow in a hulked out form.
And there we have it. And there we have it.
Yes.
All is just a way to get in a Hulk comic.
Michael, you hijacked the whole conversation to book. Just to tell, and you go to your room, Michael.
Very Peter Parker part again.
That was he told.
Oh my God, that was misscheduled.
Let's
On Peter Parker.
let's move on. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to mention my honorable mention, my honorable mention quickly. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one more time by Colin Bunn. I told y'all that I like Deadpool in terms of alternate realities. That's what I like. It could be anybody else in this book, but that's what's going on, alternate realities, and that's what I like.
I can't deal with this hypocrisy.
I just not
hit Deadpool.
I do.
You hear him, right?
They could have put a girl in it. I would have been there. Don't focus on the Deadpool part. Just focus on the kills in Marvel Universe one more time and the reality. Let's not get hung up on that.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
big red and black.
No, take him out of it. Right. So we're gonna move on because that is not. It isn't about Deadpool. It's about the situation Deadpool finds himself in. That's what.
So it's about the situation, but not about Deadpool. Therefore, that
it's about the multiverse.
Guys, let us let him talk about his Marvel Jesus.
Go, please.
Yo,
Let's move on. No, we
are
get
gonna-
you know, we're just not allowing you.
Whoa. Wow. Okay, fair enough. But next month I'm going to talk about this book again, so whatever. I may even make it my pick of the week.
Oh, God.
Hey, Glenn, we should have an episode where our main topic is about Storm's new book. What do you think?
That's your pick. That's your pick.
You know what? Suddenly I feel like reading some sort of symbiote action, right?
My God.
I'm reading the new Carnage.
A week of Hulk, Symbiote, and
Yes.
what else? And the Deadpool books. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
we're reading Hulk and we're reading
Oh,
Deadpool and Carnage.
I thought this a Wolverine.
Oh, God.
How?
Does Squirrel Girl have a new series?
No.
We should do a week where everybody picks a book about a character or website that they hate. I has to review it.
Pam.
That'd be fun. For fun.
Last episode of the season. It doesn't matter if it's current or not.
Listen.
Mark, make note of that so we don't forget, please.
I have a book in my head and I'm already angry.
Keep your keep
Yeah,
it to
you
yourself.
keep it. Yeah, sit it. I expect your reasons gonna be different than the rest of us.
Might be gamma related.
Yeah, somebody that changed just right, or somebody's powers are working weird, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on.
You don't know my mind. You don't know my heart.
We'll see. Pretty sure I got you right, but we'll see.
Surprise me.
Yeah. So let's move on to our topic of the week. It is time to review our Alluhwi comic for this week, and it is the further adventures of Synth Squad.
Continuity, bro. Continuity.
I thought
Timeline has been erased.
It's starting. We're gonna need outside this podcast handbook to keep track of the timeline. Yeah. All right.
Will you need to
So-
start drinking so much rum sours?
But that makes for a better way. That makes for a better way. All right. So we are gonna talk about our Alluhwi book this week, which is Synth Squad. If you want to tell us all about it.
Sure. Okay, so this is Synth Squad, the trade paperback. It's available on shop.alluhwicomics.com. If you like what you're hearing and you want to support the show, as well as the creators that we have on the Alluhwi Comics platform, you can definitely check this and the other books out and let us know what you think. So this book, it collects the first 3 issues of Keshawn Broadbelt's Synth Squad. It is a very cool sci-fi futuristic superhero mashup take on the Caribbean. I think of it as like the Singularity, but it gives people superpowers. So it's all science-based superhero shenanigans. The setting, it's very much Caribbean based, which is cool, but it's also a kind of slightly advanced take on the Caribbean. And these characters, the titular Synth Squad, finding their way, navigating this world with their new powers and doing cool superhero stuff. So that's in a nutshell. Keshawn's from Trinidad. Keshawn is also very much a science fiction nerd. I've had the pleasure of chatting with him about science fiction. And one of the things that we kind of vibe on is that we like the aspirational side of science fiction, where it's kind of looking forward, more positive future, that kind of stuff. But definitely, if you're into superheroes and science fiction and that cool intersection, then you can definitely check out Synth Squad, the trade paperback, to jump in on those first 3 issues. And also, Keshawn is pulling full duty. He is not only the creator, he's the writer, he is the illustrator and colorist and letterer. All of those creative duties he is handling. And what's also distinctive about it is that the entire series is completely hand-drawn. All cool things, cool reasons to check out this series.
All right, cool. Synth Squad. I unfortunately did not get into past the first part of it, but what I did read was I really enjoyed. He spent a lot of time developing the characters, and they were well fleshed out. The story was interesting. I love the whole Afro-Caribbean futuristic setting. The fact that stuff like this could happen in our area was really cool. I was not a huge fan of the art. It was a little simplistic for me, but the fact that I pushed through the story, well, not pushed, that I swept through the story, is a testament to the writing, which was really good. The characters are cool. I'm definitely gonna finish it up because I did see Barbie. This being mentioned, I've never seen Barbie. Well, I mean, have seen it, Bridgeland and whatnot, but it's always cool to see a place mentioned in the book. So the character is a Bajan guy who has some kind of powers, and he's, well, apparently a criminal, but you know, one of these situations where the criminal's really a good guy and he's being wrongfully held. Yeah, it's a strong book. Just the art for me was a little less than stellar, but yeah, good attempt. It's a good book. I recommend it.
Okay, so I read the whole thing from issue 1 to 3. And I will say this, I wasn't completely taken by the book. It was a bit difficult for me to read because of the art primarily. I found the art to be distracting, and what it did was that it prevented me from being immersed in the story. I did follow the story. The writing is the strongest part of the book, which on one hand you can say, hey, well, that's great. But again, graphic novel or comic book is a visual medium first and foremost. So that tends to carry a lot of the weight. Before you can even get to the words, the visuals is what usually lock you in, right? But I will say the writing is very good. As Wade said, he spent a pretty good amount of time developing the characters, or more so, establishing their relationships, their connections with each other. There was a bit of world building, but not a whole lot. The focus again was primarily on the characters. The plot of the story is that you have, like, if I picked it up correctly, like there's this mega corporation and they have like these, it's almost kind of like X-Men kind of vibe. You have the synth people and so on with the technologically based metaphysical abilities, right? But then somewhere along the line, you have another group, a faction that is kidnapping synths for whatever nefarious reasons, putting power dampening collars on them. And that's how we get to meet one of the first characters. He escaped from captivity and encountered our heroes. Our heroes found out about his story and then decided to make a move to rescue the rest of the people and them that, you know, he was in captivity in. So that pretty much is the basis of the plot and what drives the story. We get to know a bit about the characters. They're pretty young under the guidance of an older lady, more experienced combat professional, and she's teaching them, guiding them to be a team, learning their powers, learning how to be good, you know, and competent on the battlefield and that sort of stuff. So they're doing that. The first and second books were okay, but the third book it did a very good job. Everything landed on the third book for me. The tone shifted. It got much darker in the third book. It got a bit more emotional. There was a tragic event that happened that involved, you know, family members and stuff like that. So it got emotional, and we got to see the team like really go all out on a full-on tactical mission, you know, to get things done. And I was at that point, I found like, I don't know if it was the rhythm, the pacing, whatever. It just leveled off for me, and reading the story became much, much easier. The investment that I was looking for in the beginning started happening right around that time. So it took me a while to get to the level of investment that I was hoping to have had in the very beginning. So what this tells me is like, if you stick around with it, you stick with it. If you're experiencing any hurdles, odds are they might clear up along the way. So yeah, I think it was a good story. Getting to see our Caribbean islands being represented is always a good thing. Well, getting to see other Caribbean islands in regards to me is always good. Getting to share in the culture, the way the people talk, it comes out in the dialogue, and just getting to experience other person's cultures and so on, even if it's within a fantasy setting or science fiction setting. I think that's always very cool. Do I recommend it? Yes. Yeah. If you have an opportunity to read it, give it a shot and see if it works for you. But it's definitely worth a read. I will at least say that.
Right. So it's my turn here, and I can't really say a lot that hasn't already been said. The art was a bit of a struggle to get through, but at the same time, it was oddly easier for me because of the format he chose to like do it in. So I respected that. But, you know, like the actual visual of the art itself was also a struggle. So it was a bit bittersweet to me. And the dialogue was definitely on point. I will say that. Arguably some of the best I've read out of all of these Caribbean-based comics that we've been reviewing. And I have not gotten to the third book yet, I'm up to the second one, and I will be finishing the third one either tomorrow or very quickly after. But yeah, I would also recommend it. I mean, it takes a little bit of getting used to the art, but once you get there, it's a pretty solid book. And I like that whole futuristic vibe from the Caribbean standpoint. I love that.
Okay, that was Synth Squad. So we are gonna move on now to our topic of the week, and this was the one picked by Mark Gibson. So I am gonna let him talk about it first because I don't like talking about things that annoy me or make me upset. And he insisted on talking about this. So Mark Gibson, you take it away.
Other topic? Where was
Yeah,
it?
you didn't see it. He picked the topic. Yeah, I don't know how invested you are in this topic because it's not anything in your wheelhouse or anything you necessarily care about. But I think you might got a few things to say about it. But he is opening a can of worms here that can probably get very ugly. So I'm gonna let him go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
I
No,
feel like it was just thrown under a bus.
Nah,
Anyway,
you fueled up this bus and put it on the start line. So this is all you.
wow, this is all me, huh? All right, cool. I see what it's gonna be. All right, so the topic for this is the problem with Tim Drake. If you don't know who Tim Drake is one of the many child soldiers of Batman.
he's the one that they
the
turned gay.
Yes.
bisexual,
Yes.
bisexual.
We're already cancelled.
So funny enough, the idea for this topic actually came from a comic reviewer on Instagram. So
Sir.
anyway,
Found you.
Tell me a joke right now.
Hey, man.
Go ahead.
anyway, so the idea here, the thesis that this guy has, is that anyway. So he is saying that basically, from his perspective, Tim Drake as Robin is the definitive Robin. By the time Tim Drake came around, Dick Grayson had already been Nightwing for a significant period in continuity as well as in real time. A lot of the the adaptations in other media beyond comics were actually drawing or referencing a lot of the characteristics of Tim Drake. So Tim Drake, he was the first Robin to actually have his own successful solo series, like back in the 90s. And a lot of the characteristics, the bow staff, the two-toed ninja boots that were attributed to like Teen Titans Robin and Young Justice Robin, even though those iterations or those versions outside of comics were stated as Dick Grayson, they're actually attributes of Tim Drake. But then DC decided for, diversity or whatever, that suddenly, inexplicably, he is now, Tim Drake is now bisexual. So I was like, all right, here is a gay creator who has a problem with this, which is weird. And it got me thinking about how DC has handled Tim Drake and the problem with Tim Drake. Has he been overshadowed? Has he been replaced by other Robins? Does Batman have to make child soldiers? Yeah, that is what we're talking about for this discussion.
I would like to go first, seeing that I am the least knowledgeable here, but I do have some things that I would like to say. So, first off, Mark, it's not weird that the gentlemen have that particular take because how we identify has no bearing on our own common sense and appreciation of art. Okay, that is two independent things. But I will say this though, as a DC casual and a tourist, I move off of feeling and visuals. And so far, who's the excuse me, who is the Robin that died and was born again?
Jason Todd.
Jason Todd.
The second Robin.
And that's the guy that, oh no, we're talking about Tim Drake now, right?
Yeah, which would be third.
Okay, I have them lined up now. To me, Nightwing, the guy, Dick, whatever his name is, he is the definitive Robin, as far as I'm concerned. Dick Grayson. He was the first. He set the tone. Others came after him and they grew up in his shadow. They learned from him as much as they learned from Bruce. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Jason Todd, to me, is my second favorite Robin because he died. Okay, I think that is it's an honorable thing to give up your life in servitude of the fans. And he came back as a badass, but then became softer and he lost my attention. But the real Robin, in my opinion, is Damien. And I know you guys are going to want to crucify me. Damien is the true Robin. Okay?
Thanks,
He
Pop.
inherited. I am not joking, right? I know it sounds as if like I'm trolling, but I'm not.
We're in the heritage.
I have been, well, let's put it this way. Damien is the one that I've read the most about. And he's actually the one that had my interest from the jump. Maybe it's because he is Bruce's biological child. Maybe because he was an arrogant prick. Maybe because he had a potty mouth, right? Maybe it was just super sons. I don't know what it is, right? But as a Robin, he seemed to be it for me. He's edgy, he's skilled, he's, well, to the extent he's sort of world weary, right? And he just has a particular quality that is just clearly different from all the others, right? So that's all I have to say. I like Damien. And Tim Drake. Tim Drake never really hit my radar. I know, again, people will crucify me for this, but I never got to see this man in action. The only thing I knew about him was that he was there. I think he was the one that stole Batman's tires, and then he turned gay. And that's the only thing that I know.
That was Jason.
That's Jason. Okay, see, that's why
Yep.
Jason thought I'm bad man, right? He had to die, but still. You check me? But yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm very
Well,
disappointed, but
that-
let Michael go. Michael, see you gotta run soon, so you can take the next shot.
To me, Tim Drake is he's kind of like, honestly, the black sheep of the Robins, and that's a weird way to put it, because every other Robin, in a sense, Batman kind of found, or he found them, or they came to him troubled and disturbed and stuff. Like with Dick, of course, he was there to witness, the death of Dick's parents, and he didn't want Dick to go down the same kind of vengeful, rage-filled, lonely path that he went down. So he thought he could channel that rage into something better a lot longer before he did, and he actually did. I mean, let's face it, Nightwing is one of the best superheroes in DC, in skill, in detective work, in charisma, in everything. And he has. This is not a gay thing, okay, Wade? So just keep it under control. But the man does have the best ass in DC. I am sorry. It was, and then you have Grayson, who was basically just from the streets, corrupted, dark, vengeful. And Batman was like, yeah, I have to do something with this kid, but it never quite stuck. Basically, Jason is just the Batman that don't hold back and shoot you in the kneecaps. And then you have Tim. Then you have, of course, Damien. We all know Damien's story. The man grew up in the League of Shadows. He thinks he's destined for greatness and sitting on a throne of, conquest and blood. So Batman had his hands full there. But Tim just literally strolled up to Batman front gate and like, yeah, name's Tim Drake. Live this place, blah, blah. Listen, I know you're Batman, and since the death of your second Robin, you've been spiraling out of control and becoming darker and darker. You need a Robin, so I'm going to become your Robin. And that's Tim's whole story. He literally just went to Batman and said, hey, you getting crazy? You need a Robin to basically balance and calm your ass down. I am going to be your Robin Xanax because you need it. And Batman and Bruce was like, yeah, I figured all of this out. And Batman realized, hey, this kid has a incredible brain. And he's kind of right. I'm spiraling out of control here. So he made Tim his Robin. And then when all of that stupid pride stuff started to kick up and everybody was like, okay, we need gay characters in like every family, in every super family and all that stuff. And then they went and turned Jonathan gay in arguably the most ridiculous way I have ever read in all my damn life. And then they were like, okay, we need to turn someone from the Batman family gay. And they were like, okay, how about Tim? And they were like, okay, how about Dick? And they're like, no, okay, no. He's too charismatic. That ass is too sexy. Okay, if we go and put that, that ass is being, like parked in by men, he is dead as a character. They're like,
Mark, leave that on the cutting room. No, leave it. Don't leave it. This is what Mark wanted. This is what he gets.
So they were like, we can't do it to Dick. Okay, I mean, come on, he already has a name. He already has Dick in his name. We can't do that. And then they were like, okay, what about Jason? And they were like, we can't do it to Jason. He has too much testosterone in him. He's too fast. Okay, and they were like, damn it. What about Damien? whoa, that's Batman's heir, bro. We can't do that. We need him to, pass on the legacy. We can't do that. Nope, not the heir. And they were like, I guess that just leaves Tim. Are we doing anything really phenomenal with him? And they were like, no, he's perfect. And then somebody in the back would just raise their hand. But he's in a steady, loving relationship with that girl named Spoiler. And they were like, we don't care. Just break him up for no reason and make him gay. And they were like, okay. And that's what they did. And I hate whoever did it.
Michael, were you hurt by this? You sound hurt.
I am hurt. Okay? It's a wound in my soul that has not healed.
Just what I wanted to hear. Thank you so
Glenn made an interesting point where Tim basically was on his radar, so he doesn't have like a kind of like attachment to the character, and it once again made me realize that fandom has its cycles, and it kind of like depends on what your introduction was. So for a lot of people, they only know John Stewart as Green Lantern, largely through the Justice League animated series and the JLU. For some people, their introduction to some characters might be Flash, or they might not even know that the Grey House is a thing, or different points. But it really feels, especially with DC. DC has so many variants of, let's call it, an archetype. So there've been like 6 different Robins, at least. No, 7. Dick, Jason, Tim, Stephanie, Carrie, was Duke a Robin?
No,
Are we counting Carrie? She's technically from a kind of alternate timeline thing.
Yeah, but
she counts. Just throwing.
Okay. And what about that chick who called herself the first Robin, who trapped all the other Robins in a weird illusion to show them what their life would be like without Batman?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, a bunch.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it always feels like a writer or maybe an editor is going to come in and they're like, this is my favorite Robin, or this is my favorite character, and completely sidelines a character that has a fandom behind it. So for me, with Green Lantern, it was Kyle Rayner, and he got completely overshadowed when they brought back Hal, which is a terrible mistake. Wally was the Flash for a while. They brought back Barry, another terrible mistake. And now they're bringing Damien and completely derail like Tim's entire trajectory. I think that Dick should have been the gay Robin, but that's just me.
Oh, right. I'm going to dismiss that last sentence because you clearly insane. But anyway.
Not to be chased by a gay acrobat named Dick.
Yeah, I don't know what man she's talking about. Anyway, right. So let me give you a little background when it comes to Kendrick. Glenn said he has no affinity or no attachment to Tim, but Tim is my Robin. When Tim debuted, we were exactly the same age. So he's the one that I got the attachment to. I was completely fascinated with him. I thought I could be Robin. I literally asked my grandmother, who was a seamstress, to make me a Tim Drake costume, because it was the first time Tim had pants and the black outline of the cape with the inside yellow lining. He had a bow staff, he had the ninja toes. He just looked so cool to me, and I just thought this was the guy. He came to Batman. He was the detective Robin. He was never as physically gifted as Dick or even Jason, but he was the one with the brains. He's the one that I related to. He was my Robin. He had the first solo book, and the book did very well. I remember Tom Grummett was on art. I can't remember who wrote it, but Tom Grummett's art was fantastic. There was the issue where the 0-hour issue where Tim and Dick came forward into the feature as Robin when he was 12 years old. He was a little younger than Tim was, and that interaction was one book always to me. Then Tim had his own book where it was like a kind of not a year one, but he went overseas to train with Lady Shiva, and that book also always stuck with me. These were formative books for me. Tim also then had the story in Identity Crisis, where his father was killed by Captain Boomerang. All of these are pivotal moments in Tim's story that are epic. There was even that story when he got trapped in a car. He got kidnapped by the Joker, and that whole book is about Tim not reasoning, but using psychology to get to the Joker and save his own life while he was tied up in the back of his car. He just has so many good moments. And like Mark said, he was derailed by some editorial decision to bring in Damien into it. So once Damien came, they didn't know what to do with him. Shuffled them all around. He had a good run as Red Robin in his book. That wasn't bad at all. But his relationship with Stephanie was a beautiful one too. I remember that started when it was also at our age too at school, and I was like, kind of living vicariously through Tim, his relationships, his, being my age and being his psychic to Batman. You can't understand the kind of attachment I built, the fan built being Batman psychic in somebody your own age. So I understand relatability on that aspect. But Tim has that connection to me to always be my Robin. He's the one that I always thought is most capable. I don't know if you guys would have read Jeff Johns' Teen Titans when the Titans of Tomorrow came back in time. And Tim was the one who never wanted to be Batman, but he ended up being Batman. Things like that we never see with the other guys. Jason Todd, two-dimensional and to me and just boring. Yeah, you went crazy and want to be a psycho. All right, whatever. Damien is unbearable. I can't stand him. Dick will always be the OG. Dick is Dick. You can't get rid of that. But Tim is the one that resonated with me most. And to see him now shuffled off to some corner to be a token character to represent gay people or bisexual people or whatever is a disservice to the character. He deserved better, even if you were going to do that to him. Scrap 20 or 30 years of continuity of him being straight and being with Stephanie. Even if you're going to do all that, there's something to do with him, man. Nobody even. No, he's getting no play in the animated world, the movie world, nothing. They're all using all these different Robins, and it's sad. A waste of a good character. He and Connor had a fantastic relationship, and all that has been lost. I recommend anybody who wants to get Tim Drake, go read the original Robin run. Also read the miniseries with him and Lady Shiva, and I'll also read Jeff Johns' early Teen Titan book. That's where you get some good Tim Drake. And then that's what you could do. But
Let me ask you one thing there. Like Tim Drake, when did you know that you also like? The real question. The real question is, what was your take on the new 52 Tim? Because I personally loved that version of Tim, especially that suit is arguably the most fire cape I've ever seen in New 52.
yeah, I know you would like that New 52 stuff. I didn't really care. It was the same Tim Drake. I didn't really care for the costume either, but like I said, I largely have no love for the New 52. I thought it was a misstep in DC's history. Yeah, whatever. He wasn't bad. He was fine.
No, I can. The New 52 read like recycled 90s garbage, and
Very much so.
that could burn forever in the fires.
Forever and ever.
All of it. All the New 52 trying to fire and let, generate electricity for.
Amen, brother. Amen.
But all right, so to bring this all, I guess, to a close, the problem with Tim Drake is ironic because they rewrote literally decades of character development and history and, like Wade said, significant moments for the sake of representation, and the character is now thrown by the wayside. Tim Drake fans aren't happy. Some of the people who this change was supposedly made for don't care for it, and the character is pretty much on the rubbish heap. So yeah, that's sad. And yeah,
I just want to say I think the best move for DC to do would be to first of all kill Damien.
wow,
Yeah,
No.
kill him dead.
wow.
Have him dropped off a cliff or incinerated in a furnace or decapitated by a propeller from an airplane. Something gruesome. That's what I want.
Didn't they do that in the reboot of his book?
Which
When they had like this whole Mortal Kombat situation where he went to this island and had to fight against others.
I don't read Damien. There's a Batman and Robin book.
In the first book, I think they pull out his heart or some crap like that.
You don't read Deadpool either way.
There's a Batman and Robin book. That's the title. And I every time I try to pick up this book and I get 2 pages in and I see Damien's face or hear him talk, I can't read it. He is the most grating character. That's why and he's so prominently featured in that in that DC versus Vampires book. And I don't know why I keep doing it to myself. I hate him and I hate him. So I want him dead. I want
Why,
this
why
whole. I
you
want
hating
the last.
him so? What has he done to you?
Like I said, he supplanted Tim. That's the first thing first. And then he's just an annoying character. He's not cool to be such an asshole. He's a little turd. And I hate it.
But so then, by that logic, you should hate the other Robins.
No, they're great kids, except for Jason.
Were they
Every-
supplanting each other? 7 kids.
No. Dick left. Dick said he didn't want, he was too old to be Robin. He was done with that shit. He moved on. Jason came in and Jason died. Tim didn't supplant anybody. Tim was Robin. Then Tim got into some trouble, or I can't remember what happened or whatever, but Stephanie took over for a little while. I think Tim might have left. Stephanie got herself fired for disobeying Bruce, and Tim came back on the job. Then fucking Damien showed up. So yeah, he's the problem. He needs to go.
All DC needs to do is to put Damien Wayne in some kind of time travel shenanigans alternate reality book, and you're gonna lock that up.
Whatever, man. Sure, whatever.
This is Deadpool all over again.
Whatever.
Oh, again.
If Damien end up in some alternate universe shenanigans and Wade dares to pick up that book and talk about how he enjoyed it, I will personally come to Barbados.
Y'all know, Mike, that's my weakness. I can bypass anything, but I just want Tim next to Bruce. I love that dynamic because Tim challenges Bruce in a way that none of the other Robins do. He plays catch-up. They don't care. They don't care about it. And I gotta blame, I think Danny Dios, who would have been running the ship at that point in time. He did a lot of shit. He wanted to kill off Dick to start with. He brought in Damien. He sidelined. He was the brain behind the whole rebirth stuff. He was who would have brought back in Barry and Hal. So I know Mark ain't like that either. But he just made a lot of decisions that I found creatively problematic, and a lot of them got undone since then, but we still have not gotten Tim back to the forefront where he should be, in my opinion.
The thing is, Tim was in a good spot with Young Justice. He didn't have. So one of the strengths with Tim, kind of like Dick. Well, yes, he consciously stepped into the role of Robin. He never saw his trajectory as Batman. The reason why his original solo series worked so well was because he consciously decided he could go out on his own, away from Batman, stepping out of Batman's shadow. So in a way, he was kind of like the second person trying to step out of Batman's shadow. Young Justice was environment again for him to do that, and I don't know if somebody at DC, if that kind of attitude or aspect of the character pissed them off, but that's one of the cool things about Tim.
I
Tim
just realized
chose
something.
Batman, but chose to walk away at different points as well.
Tim Drake doesn't have a clear evolutionary path. He has nothing else to be but Robin. You have Dick Grayson, who became Nightwing. You have Jason Todd, who became he don't have anything to be but Robin, and he can't be Robin all like forever and ever. Robin is a kid.
He actually did try to step into Red Robin, but I can't remember what the actual in-universe aspect of it was, because Red Robin originated from Kingdom Come.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with Kingdom Come. They just decided to make the costume. He came with the costume, and I guess the Kingdom Come thing would be that years later, Dick would actually say, "Hey, let me use this." That's how I think it was supposed to work.
Yeah, so he did actually again kind of blaze his own trajectory of being Red Robin, and then they did this stupid, was it New 52 thing, where it's like, oh, I can't settle on a name anymore, kind of like what you said. Robin is for a certain phase or whatever, or for children or some nonsense, and he was running around with like ridiculous names. Clearly, whoever was involved taking the character as a joke, because at one point he decided that he was going to settle on Drake as his superhero code name.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was more new garbage. A fire. Stop lying, a fire.
But what had happened was that after Final Crisis, when Dick and Bruce was supposed to be dead, and Dick has stepped into the role as Batman, and they for some reason decided to take Damien, I guess to keep Damien under surveillance, and to thing, they pushed out Tim. So that's when Tim took up the Red Robin identity, because he was still trying. Remember, if you remember that book, he was trying to prove he was the only one that believed that Bruce was still alive.
That Bruce was still alive, yeah.
Right, he was searching all over the world for Bruce as he took the Red Robin identity. But my thing is, I don't think Tim should I don't want to say step on his own, but I think Tim belongs with Bruce. That is what he was Bruce's strength after everything happened to Jason, and that's where he works and that's where he fits. He's the one. Glenn's talking about the evolution, but he's the one who he's the one who really does not want to be Batman, but he's the one to me that is destined to be the next Batman. He's the chosen one, in my opinion. He's the one that has the drive and the gifts, and he's doing it. He's doing it because he wants to. Dick fell into the role because of what happened in his trauma, and Bruce took him in. Jason was troubled and needed Bruce. I mean, it's his son, but Tim is the only one that chose that path. He wants to be Robin. He wants to be out there fight. He wants to do it. He had choices in life, but he chose this path. That's why I think he's the one that works best as Robin and works as the future Batman. And he's the one who deserves it. Dick has his own thing going on. Dick is his own man. Dick isn't suited to be Batman, in my opinion. Jason's a piece of shit. And Damien's a waste of sperm. Yeah, none of them suit Batman. They don't have the temperament. Tim is the one.
Before Damien came on the scene, Tim was the heir apparent to, I guess, the Batman legacy.
Definitely.
And it wasn't because it was handed to him. It was because every step of the way he earned it. Like you said, he wasn't. And the interesting thing with Robin is that they all had their own key characteristic. So Dick was fearless because, jumping around rooftops is nothing if he's working on the highway app. Jason was angry, but Tim is the one that put in the work, and he was always the more cerebral one of them. And the other thing too is that DC it felt like they were constantly trying to paint him out. He's the one that was started running around with the bow staff and the ninja boots. Then he realized that he is very cerebral and tech oriented, so he started integrating tech specifically into his gear. But then they kind of handed those tech capabilities back to Barbara Gordon under Oracle, which I do like Barbara as Oracle, but in a lot of ways, Barbara didn't make sense being crippled for as long as she was, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Let's be real here. None of these guys, beyond Damien, has the necessary and the right balance of psychological trauma to be the next Batman.
Yeah.
And that's why Damien will be the next Batman. And I know some of y'all like Wade and so on don't like to hear it, but he's Bruce's child. And he's the one that has to come. He has the longest journey into becoming a better human because he born as an asshole.
He's still an asshole.
I get your point, Glenn, and I can see where you're coming from. But it's a case for me with Tim and kind of like Wade. I grew up with Tim. I came up with Tim. But it feels like as broad as the DC universe can be, it still finds a way to sideline perfectly good characters, especially perfectly good characters who have a rich history behind them. You saw it on a larger scale with the Justice Society of America. At one point, was that tied to the New 52? But they just kind of like ripped the JSA out of continuity and left a massive continuity hole where they used to be, right? You had people like
two book where they shifted the whole Justice Society to a new
But you had Wally West who is one character who earned his role as the Flash. He literally grew in to replace his mentor, who had a heroic, noble death. And then for reasons they bring back Barry. Same thing with Kyle. Kyle earned his ring. He wasn't the first choice anybody would have made, but he earned his place as Green Lantern through a lot of tragedy. Coming home and finding his girlfriend folded up in his fridge. I mean, that's some bullshit. To get replaced by Hal, whose single greatest feat is fucking dying. Sorry, again. Anyway, maybe we should wrap this up.
Yeah, like I always said, I'm part of Heat. That was Hal's Emerald attack team. You always back Hal. I don't care what you say. Wally, but Hal, whatever. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. So Gibson, you want to do the housekeeping before we go?
All right. So thank you again, folks. You loyal, lovely listeners. Another episode 6 of the For Outsiders Comics Podcast. Again, powered by Skylarkin Media. If you want to support this show, if you like what we do, you can definitely head over to shop.allwecomics.com. There you will find a selection of Caribbean comics for a variety of tastes, and you can buy those comics there. That supports what we do here with this show, and it supports the creators themselves so they can keep making awesome comics. Yeah, so check out Synth Squad, the trade paperback on shop.alluhwicomics.com. It is definitely a very interesting and engaging story. So that there's value in that for sure. You can also check out the other books we've mentioned during this podcast for sure. Things like Terror of the Midnight Robber, and a bunch of other books that right now I am tired and I don't remember. So that's it. I'm Mark, one of your hosts.
And I am Wade, still very sweet and still very sour Alluhwi.
And I am Glenn, still spicy chicken.
And I think we lost Michael. So that's been it for this week, episode 6. And we'll see you back next week. And we are out.